Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Quality Counts webinar discussing horizontal curve assessments. My name is Roxy Booth, and I work on QC's marketing team. I'll be your host today. On the right-hand side here, you'll see a chat box. Please use this area to ask questions throughout the presentation. We will periodically take questions, and then any questions we don't get to, we'll answer at the end during our Q&A time. So just use it kind of as a parking lot. Any questions you have there, we'll end up trying to get to. And if not, we'll follow up with you with an email afterwards. Next to the chat tab, you'll see a polls tab. Go ahead and click on that. We have 2 questions there you can go ahead and answer. This will help us kind of tailor the presentation to best serve you and your needs. Next to that tab, you'll see a handouts tab. We have uploaded the presentation there in PDF format. So if throughout the presentation you just kind of want to reference that or to have it to go back to, you're more than welcome to download that. We're excited to have Jay and Pablo share with us about the horizontal curve data collection. Jay is our vice president, and he's responsible for all of our horizontal curve assessments, or HCA, projects, which have included statewide efforts in both Ohio, New York, Kentucky, and South Carolina, as well as many other local and regional projects. Under Jay's leadership, QC has become the largest horizontal curve data collector in the U.S. And also presenting today, we have Pablo. He is our lead programmer and GIS analyst with experience designing and implementing systems that support our HCA projects. He's worked with our staff across the company to put the best practices into place for data management, data hygiene, and he's increased our overall efficiency in company workflows. We also have our CIO, Jim Brennan, with us today to help with any additional questions and during our Q&A time. Jim oversees our internal operations department, which is responsible for data processing, quality control, and report generation. So thanks so much, Jay and Pablo, for taking the time to teach us about horizontal curve assessments today.
Thanks, Roxy. I'm Jay, and we're excited to be here with you today. I hope everybody's doing well through this pandemic, and I know there's a lot of webinars out there, and we're very honored that you chose to join us, so I'll jump right in. Horizontal curve assessment is, we're really trying to create a safer driving experience for everyone in this. And the reason for it is because half of all highway fatalities happen from roadway departures, and half of those happen on horizontal curves. So in essence, 28% of all fatalities happen on horizontal curves. That being said, 44% of them, or 3,300 people, can be saved each year by having the proper signage in place, the proper speed advisories. So the feds came up in 2009, that all curves should be reassessed by the year 2019, end of 2019. Obviously, a lot of agencies didn't get around to it for whatever reason. We did help Ohio get completed in 2017. As well as several other states have done it in-house, completed it, Oregon being one of them. And then there's other states that attempted it or are in the process of attempting it. And as Roxy said, we're currently finishing up 3 statewide contracts now that we'll talk about later. Another reason for doing it is creating universal standard advisory.
Jay, you're kind of cutting in and out a little bit.
I'm sorry about that. I'm not sure. Shouldn't be the connection for sure.
There you go. Maybe it's just staying close to your mic a little bit more.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you. So creating a universal standard is very important. Having the proper signage, replacing all improper signage is another aspect of it. And there's a new Chevron requirement that requires you to have the radius of a curve and place the chevron appropriately. So all that being said, it's a pretty difficult task to accomplish. But our company, Quality Counts, we've done HCA better, cheaper, faster, and safer than anyone else. And I'm not saying that for a promo, but we're going to help you determine how you can get it done if you want to do it partially yourself or all of it yourself. To date, we've surveyed over 85,000 centerline miles in 9 states. We've driven over 500,000 miles to get that data. Talk about that and why that's necessary as well. We processed more than 200,000 curves, and we've inventoried over 400,000 signs to date. So we have a lot of experience in all aspects of it. And the states were either completed or are completing very soon, and that has required a lot of work through the last couple of years. So pain points in doing horizontal curve assessment. It's very important to kind of know where you might struggle for it, where you have to prepare for it. So project management is key to any project of this magnitude. Lots of DOTs have taken it on. Maybe the central offices has taken on this project and then assigned it to regions or districts, and as if anything else, some districts handle it much better than others, and so it's not always universal in what you get as an end product. There's also communication issues involved in that sometimes. Data collection is a pain point. However, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, that's probably the easiest thing to get collected or to do in the horizontal curve assessment portion of it. Another aspect is the data processing. We use the CARS system developed by Rieker. It is probably the easiest. It is the easiest to use, but it still requires a fair bit of expertise and a fair bit of training and to do it properly. But it can be done in-house too. And then sign inventories are very difficult lots of times. A lot of DOTs don't know what signs they have at their curves. So they don't even know what needs to be changed yet. The CARS system does a great job of saying what signs need to be there, but they can't tell you what signs are there without doing a sign. And then the cost of it is very expensive a lot of times. Even if you're doing it in-house as a DOT, you have a lot of man hours you're putting into it and a lot of project management hours put into it. So there is a significant cost, and you want to make sure whatever you're spending is it's being spent well in any case. And engineering firms do this. You certainly can go that route, but you want to pay attention to your costs. So like I said, we use the Rieker inclinometer system and the CARS system that has their inclinometer on it, which is the best in the industry. And then if we license that for some of our clients that have licensed it directly, and we can piggyback on that license with them. So the process is fairly straightforward. You hire and train people. Use your in-house folks, so you might be able to not hire folks. We tend to like to hire people, especially for these big statewide contracts, people that are local. It saves a lot on overnight stays and travel expenses and that kind of stuff. And so in Ohio, we use Columbus as our hub. However, we learned we were spending a lot of money on collecting data on roadways that were a distance from Columbus. So in Kentucky and New York and South Carolina, we created multiple hubs in which we hired local people in those places and were able to avoid a lot of those expenses. Hub preparation, that's really just use your DOT lots or district lots. You can use storage units to storage the vehicles. But the main reason we do that is because we have found that one of the areas in which the equipment can fail on you is with the wire connections. When you're taking it out and plugging it in and taking it out, even with the heavy duty ones, that's just wear and tear. Something can go wrong. But if you can kind of put it in place and leave it in place and not have to take it out, so you got to have a secure environment if you're going to have a bunch of that equipment on your dash and that kind of stuff. We find that it's easier on the equipment. There's less turnover or setup time each day, and less breakdown time. So we found that to work. The data collection portion of it is training your folks to drive slow and smooth and consistent through curves. So it is driving with a purpose, but it's not a terribly difficult task to teach somebody. It is difficult to do it. If you've ever tried driving a curve, particularly a big curve, at a consistent speed without moving the steering wheel, jerking the steering wheel, you'll find that it's a difficult task to do. Once you train people to do it, they get very good at it. Then there's the data upload. Pretty straightforward. You get a Wi-Fi connection. We've found certain fast food places work and certain fast food places don't. They don't allow you to upload data very much in some places. But overall, we've found if you have a good Wi-Fi connection anywhere, the data uploads pretty smoothly and seamlessly when you're doing it. So there can be, we've had issues from time to time with the amount of data we use. So then the data processing portion, like I said, we've trained hundreds of people to do the data processing. We'll go a little bit into that detail in future slides, and then the deliverable generation is what we deliver to the end client, and that's also going to be covered. Publicly. There's been a lot of automation for us to help us. So when you're on the road collecting the data, the first thing you want to
question for you,
make sure you
David wanted to know, does the Rieker CARS inclometer also provide GIS point data with the ball bank reading?
It does, yes. That is the main thing that it does. If every 300 milliseconds, there's data points set with the GPS. So that's how you can get the radius.
Great, thanks. And you're still kind of cutting out on your mic a little bit too.
All right, I'm going to change up here.
And then, go ahead.
Is this better?
Not any better. Oh, there you go.
Okay.
That's better.
I'll try my best.
And then I have another question from Carzon. Wants to know, do you drive all the curves within the study roadways or apply any high-level screening?
Typically, we have driven all the roadway networks. We don't screen particularly for curves. That's the part of the efficiency of this and having the database. Something that might be considered a curve needing treatment for a certain speed, posted speed right now, if that speed limit goes up, it may not require treatment right now based on a certain speed, but if the posted speed limit is raised, it would require treatment. So we end up processing about twice as many curves that do need treatment. We process that many that don't need treatment, so that if in the future a road network gets a higher speed limit, all you got to do is go back in and put the new posted speed, and you'd have that data for knowing what the advisory speed should be. And that's a good question. So we do, the route assignments is a very important aspect of what we do. We do drive each area or each roadway centerline mile twice per biker's recommendation for cars. So that's part of what ends up being so many more miles. And then you have deadhead miles that you do just getting to a start and end point lots of times. So it ends up being many miles driving to collect the centerline miles, and centerline miles you're collecting it 4 times, so and 4 times. But it's also best to go ahead and do it while you're there. There's not much additional cost collecting it a second time versus doing it once. Equipment check, always important. like I said, we found the weak link is mainly the connection points. We want to make sure that all the equipment is calibrated, it is leveled, and it is ready to work for you, and that we have a strong GPS signal. So we do end up usually having redundant equipment in the car available, second kit, so to speak, able to collect the data, do a hot swap, and carry on as driving, because you never know what can happen on the road. Then the raw data upload, as I said, is pretty straightforward. You want to make sure you have a good Wi-Fi connection, but other than that, it's clicking the button on the tablet and the raw data gets uploaded. And then if you were doing a sign inventory, the way we do sign inventories is we have cameras in the vehicles and that are GPS cameras, and as they're driving, they're recording the drive, so we're getting 2 passes in each direction, and then we post reduce that video using sign Prox. And when we do that, we've developed with sign Prox the video capability to use that system, and it gives you everything you need. It's not sub-meter, but it gives you everything you need for a good sign inventory, as well as CARS produces is what the signs should be that are on it.
For you from Michael. He wants to know if the inclometer cuts in and out, does it still record data even though you're through a curve?
So the inclinometer doesn't typically cut. We leave it on the whole time, so it's collecting data as you go. The GPS can cut in and out from time to time, but the inclinometer is going the whole time. So we're collecting data. And one of the things we do when we drive the network is we don't typically do 2 passes in one day at the same time. We do them on separate days, so that if there is satellite positioning that might have had an issue one day, we can get a stronger GPS data on the next day. But the inclinometer is going the whole time. Okay, so curve processing. You do select the segment of the curve. You post-processing, our processors are looking at the roadway network and the data collected. They select the curve, determine if a report is needed, and typically we'll go ahead and go ahead and create the curve so that we have the data even if it doesn't need treatment at a later point. So each one of these dots is data from the drive. Then you cast a net, creating your PT, and then CARS pretty much does the rest for you. It even gives you, so it'll tell you what the fit is and how good it is. It'll give you a GPS fit. So it's very, very accurate, very good data, very consistent. It's not survey grade by any means, but it's as close as you're going to get. And when you're doing networks, you really can't do survey grade. There's nothing out there that will do that for you. And then you update the segment of the curve. The data, you'll know who the processor is, have who the driver was, have the information when it was completed, all the data you need for quality control. And we'll talk about quality control measures we've done. Wow. So I'm going to turn it over to Pablo right now to talk about the QC platform.
2 questions for you, Jay. The first one is, the coordinates are for your camera location. So how will you identify the coordinates of the signs?
There is some nudging you can do with the program. So they're essentially nudged. It is some contracts that we can do it from the position of the vehicle. It just kind of depends on what the contract reads. And the post processors are really good at positioning where the signs are compared to where the car is. So there's just, it's a manual adjustment typically.
Okay. And then another question, how do you define PC and PT?
Jim, I'm going to let you take that.
Point of curvature. So that's the point at which the road begins to curve, and the PT is the point of tangency. That's the point at which the curve ends and the road becomes a tangent again. And in the software, where we process the curve data, there's a rectangle selection tool. Jay showed it on a previous slide that allows the analyst to determine the PC and the PT and what data is included on the curve for a given location.
Okay. Thanks, Jim. Any other questions, Roxy? Okay. All right, Pablo.
All right, hey everyone, thanks for coming. So I'm Pablo. I've been involved in these HCA projects on the back end for quite a while, and I'm just going to walk you through our system and some of the advantages that we've developed. So HCA platform is the term that we use to refer to the tools and processes that we have developed that are generalizable to any HCA project. And this is the basic flow. So the most important thing it does is create special processor interfaces that allow our technicians to use the analytical software more efficiently and coordinate better with the larger operation. That data is uploaded via Dropbox Business and consumed back into the platform. This HCA platform logo, for the purpose of these slides, is going to refer to the proprietary stuff that's running on our servers and then how it interacts with the other technologies. So an overview of how everything works. The first step in any project is to get the client's requirements. There are parameters required by CARS, the survey requirements, the signing conventions, curve naming conventions, anything specific to the client with regard to an HCA project. Also, of course, we need the road network in GIS. We've developed some pre-processing tools that can take any client road network and ensure that it has the information that we need for our system and produce the outputs that CARS requires to do its work. Both of those get loaded into the platform, and then we start route planning. So the very first step is to create route planning views that technicians can use to plan optimized driving routes. Those driving routes are passed on to the collection teams, and they do the driving. The main output of the CARS in-vehicle device are large sensor data files that get uploaded to CARS, as Jay said. And then our technicians use our processing views in addition to CARS to do the analysis. Simultaneously, the video from the dash cams in the vehicles is sent to our sign reduction department, where we extract the GPS tracks from the video files, and the sign processing technicians use our views and sign Prox to reduce sign data. We have an additional step because sign Prox is a single user desktop application designed to be used at an analyst's workstation to combine the sign data from multiple sign Prox installations and synchronize it. The outputs of all of these processes are fed back into the system and used to create a loop that continues to inform each department of the other's progress. So basically, this reduces our time to insight. The amount of time from the moment the data is collected in the field before it is processed and presented to the route planners to begin recollection efforts is very, very short, and that is a significant cost savings. Then finally, we do deliverables as a synthesis of outputs from our system, which is going to be the summary, overview, metrics, invoices, and the individual elemental reports and sign images from the two softwares. So that's the gist. Now I'll get into some of the competitive advantages that we've discovered. Really, the primary one is in how we are able to extend the processing effort. CARS and SignProx are the key analytical technologies that make any of this possible. There is, however, a significant operational challenge in collecting that data. So the CARS and SignProx systems output bulk data, primarily as CSVs or database files. And we've developed a pipeline that consumes those outputs and converts them into operational interfaces so that our analysts have a more holistic view of what's going on project-wide, and as importantly, can make edits in those interfaces that are detected and applied back into the software. So this gives us bulk data management and editing capabilities that are also significantly more efficient than what we would be capable of otherwise. The next area that benefits really arguably the most from having everything put together is route planning. Some of these projects involve over 100,000 miles of driving. And so being able to collect the data and convert it into maps that our processors can use to plan more efficient routes from the hubs in coordination with operations is a significant advantage. Move on to the next one. So, sorry guys, my slides. All right, there we go. So the final big challenge is verification. You have 40,000 miles of road network and quite a lot of sensor and analytical data, and you need to reduce that to determine whether you've actually completed the work on a given center line. So we have quite a few geoprocessing techniques and workflows that will take the raw data from SignProx and CARS and determine for a given center line whether we have completed the analysis to the client satisfaction. Then that information is used to provide metrics and invoices as the project goes forward. Lastly are deliverables.
Pablo, I have a quick question for you.
Again, these are single purpose applications. So we have the curve data in one set and the sign data in another set. And we're able to take those larger sets of data and reduce them to organized, actionable deliverables that can be dispatched to the different working groups more effectively and start taking action right out of the box. And that's an overview of all the advantages we've developed and a general idea of how our system works. I'm going to hand things back over to Jay now, unless we have any questions.
One question from Eric. He wants to know, do you use ESRI tools to do route planning? Pablo, Jay, do one of y'all have an answer to that? Anybody there?
Yeah, I can answer that. So we don't use Esri, their route analyst tool to automatically create routes. We have a team of route planners. We do use the Esri tools to create maps that display, the project network, all of the routes that we have planned, all the data that we have collected, known curve locations, and data quality elements that allow us to plan our initial surveys and our redriving as well. So we are using Esri mapping tools, but we don't use the automated route planning. We've found that it's more efficient to have a team do that planning. We also do quality control to check for comprehensive coverage of the route by our data sessions as well.
Thanks, Jim. Pablo. So we expect that the next MUTCD will be out in 2021. With the pandemic that's happened of late, it could be delayed to 2022. But we do expect in either case that the mandate will still be there, and it will be stronger to do these horizontal curve assessments because it really does save lives and is a cost-effective measure to take in saving those lives. So who benefits from HCA services? We have cities obviously benefit, and it could be traffic engineers, it can be safety engineers, that kind of thing. Counties, states, MPOs, engineers, and really the driving public, because it makes for curves to be safer and saves lives ultimately. That's why we're doing what we're doing. So what's next is really creating an action plan. If you have roadway networks that you're responsible for and haven't done the horizontal curve assessments, I encourage you to create a plan of how you want to accomplish it. You can do a lot of it yourself if you want, particularly driving. I break it up into essentially 4 tasks. You have the route planning, you have the data collection, you have the processing, and you have the quality control. And if you're comfortable doing all 4 of those, you can do all 4 of those. If you want help in any one of those, we're more than happy to help you. And in addition, if you need a sign inventory, that's a perfect time to get it since we're already driving the network. If you want to collect that data yourself, we can provide you the cameras to do that, and we can post-process that film for you. So there's a lot of ways we can help anybody. So I'm going to open it to any additional questions there might be. And feel free to contact me via email or phone if you have any questions and you want to ask online. I'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, Jay, we have a couple of questions for you here. The first one, are you aware of FHWA ever penalizing a state DOT for failure to meet the MUTCD mandate for curves, or maybe holding funds or something like that?
No, I've not heard of the feds doing that at this point. We think what will happen is lawsuits. There's a ambulance chasing lawyer on TV all the time advertising if you're in an accident, we want to help you. So we think lawsuits are what you primarily open yourself up to, because the feds say what you were supposed to do. If you haven't done it, I think it opens yourself up to liability.
Gotcha. Another question from Frank is, do you save the bulk curve data?
Yes, the bulk curve data is saved, and you will have access to all that. Jim, can you tell us how long we save that for?
Curve data itself that's collected is stored on the CARS,
Right.
And available through the CARS portal, and CARS has several different options for bulk downloading the data. So it's stored there. We also on the HCA platform store it into our system, and we use that for things like our implementing our additional quality control flags and creating the reports, as Pablo explained. So to answer the question, yes, the data is stored in a database and can be reported in bulk reports. We're getting a lot of questions. Roxy, we actually missed a question earlier.
Yes. One, or do you manually pick PC and PT?
Yes, so that process is manual, and it's done in the CARS software, the online portal. The analyst manually identifies the PC and PT using the rectangle selection tool, and that determines the raw GPS BBI data that's used to make the calculations about the curve geometry and recommended advisory speed, et cetera. So we don't have a tool, for example, to take a GIS network and do an automated curve extraction. I do know that there are tools like that out there. There's nothing currently that I'm aware of that would be applied, at least in a straightforward manner, to the raw CARS data that's collected. That would be an interesting thing to develop. We do. Sometimes we've had an existing network that identifies curve locations, and that's very helpful for us. We include that as a layer on our the maps that our HCA platform is generating, and that provides a great reference tool for our analysts as we're doing our curve analysis.
Question. Are you aware of any grants for local public agencies for HCAs?
I'm not aware of that. However, we do know the Federal Highway Agency's budget for 2020 included, even on the front page, reference to horizontal curve assessments. So if there is some grant money available, we don't work with that directly, but we would like to know if anybody gets that, so we can help other agencies get that. So
Gotcha. Okay. And then the next question, Eric made a comment that Sign Prox sounds amazing, and he wants to know where he can learn more about it.
yeah, you can go to signprox.net, Jim, or is it? Do you remember? Yep, signprox.net.
Yeah. That's great. And then can you confirm that you drive each curve once? Do you drive the curve in each direction, or how does that work with multi-lane divided roadways?
So we don't drive each lane. We drive the innermost lane 2 times in each direction.
How do you clean data from a bumpy road or extraneous data?
We collect it this way. We collect it the same way. Lots of times the data can be difficult to get. It's not probably 100%, but we haven't had any issues as of. I mean, some roads, if they're that bumpy, they probably don't have 1,080 Ts anyways, and don't qualify as needing it. However, the data is still there. It can be used. It just may have to make some exceptions for what's acceptable.
And how do we price our efforts? Do we price it by mile, or how does that work?
Yeah, it is priced per mile typically. We have some other options, particularly if we're not doing the turnkey solution. But one factor in that is the licensing of cars. need to know a little bit about your network, how many centerline miles it is, where it is, and how quick it needs to be done. That kind of thing all plays factors into what the cost would be.
Okay, that makes sense. And then does QC, do we have a current NGBRC or New Jersey statewide contract?
We don't have any New Jersey statewide contracts, no.
Looks like we got all of those questions. So thanks everyone for attending and working with us through some of our mic difficulties and things as we're all working remotely. Again, here's Jay's contact information. Jay, Jim, Pablo, you guys have anything else to wrap us up? I think we're pretty much, oh, hold on. Just got one more question in here. John Riley wants to know, does QC have a VDOT statewide contract?
No, we don't have a VDOT statewide contract, but we did several counties in Virginia. I don't know how much it's done. I think we did 2 counties in Virginia. But we don't have a statewide contract.
Okay, great. And then a follow-up to the New Jersey question, have we done any in any of the New Jersey area?
No.
Okay, great. I think we've covered all the questions here. Again, if anyone who's attending has any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to Jay. Really appreciate everyone jumping on. So hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks, Jay and Pablo and Jim, for all the great information.
Thank you, Roxy.
Thanks.